Getting up early is something that I've always wanted to be able to do, but as we all know, it starts with the routine the night before. So what I've done is I've asked AI to give me the perfect scientifically based nighttime routine, and I'm going to follow it for 7 days, and I'm going to actually see whether it does improve me getting up early of a morning and see whether it makes my day more productive, which is hopefully the outcome that I'm aiming for. And I'm going to go into what constitutes a good, perfect nighttime routine in a minute, but the first one is that you need to stop your caffeine quite early on. And I'll be honest, I've probably not come off to the greatest start because it is 3:30 in the afternoon and I'm having my third coffee of the day, meaning about 360 milligrams of caffeine I've had today. But you try and do the cut off as early on as possible, and the reasons I'll come on to in a second. Now, it takes on average about 5 hours to remove 50% of the caffeine levels in your body. So that's why a lot of people say to have a cut off at 12 p.m. But for some people, depending on circumstances, genetics, medication, you can be something called a fast metabolizer, and I fall within that category. So that's why I've allowed myself at least until 3 p.m, which today, like I said, not the best start, half an hour late. But that's why I'm allowing myself that cutoff, because on average, if it's 12 o'clock or 3 o'clock, by the time you go to bed, you've reduced your level by about 75%. And if you are staying within the normal limits, which is less than 400 milligrams of caffeine a day, which you've got to look into, like I said, a latte is about 120 milligrams, pre-workouts, they're on the back of the label. But by doing so, that will help you have a better sleep because you shouldn't be as stimulated. But that's an early cutoff for me because normally I can even have a coffee at 7, 8 o'clock at night. It doesn't really affect my sleep from what I believe, but it could potentially be affecting deep sleep, REM sleep, all them things. So this is the first component. I'm going to stick to this for the next 7 days and I will get better with the 3 o'clock cutoff. And I will go on to the other part of the nighttime routine later on this evening. So apparently the perfect routine starts 60 minutes before you go to bed. First thing is to set the temperature of the room, because apparently the ideal temperature 16 to 19 degrees Celsius helps trigger more melatonin because the body will go into a cooler core temperature throughout the night. That's why when you wake up, you tend to be a bit warmer. To reduce any bright white light, so try and make it more dim, neutral tones, which is what I'm doing, or warmer light. And to turn off any screens because any blue light does suppress melatonin. So that's the environment set, and it should be just for sleeping, which obviously is something I'll struggle with because I tend to watch the telly a bit when I come back to bed. But that's it for the sleep environment. Everything else seems to happen outside of the bedroom. So the next thing is, again, manipulating your temperature, and they say to try and get a hot shower about 45 minutes before you go to bed because it raises skin temperature, and then that is going to reduce your core temperature as like a counteractive thing. So that's what we're going to do, but obviously I'm not going to show it. It's not that type of YouTube channel. And then we'll go into the next one. Up to this point, I've cut out the caffeine after 3 o'clock, well, a bit later today. I've set the bedroom environment so that the temperature is going to be a bit colder. I've actually just bought new bedding. I had to go through HomeSense, which, if anyone knows what that is, the bane of my life, whatever. It's like a TK Maxx anyway. Then had a shower to, again, reduce core temperature. All these things are set up to reduce core temperature, increase the release of melatonin, which then should improve your quality of sleep. Now, the last thing before you go to bed is to reduce the stimulation of your mind. So they say by journaling. So I'm just going to do maybe a to-do list because that's one of the things it says. It says do a bit of meditation potentially, but I'm probably not going to do that tonight. Or light reading. Now, the only book that I've got, which I've just started, is Chernobyl History of a Tragedy. I don't think that's going to be light reading, so that's off the cards. And I haven't got a fancy gin. Oh, actually, I've got some herbal tea, which I will show you because I don't think the camera angle is the best. So herbal tea. And then there is my to-do list, which obviously nothing yet. But I think it's a bit different because obviously I'm still working with the NHS. I don't really have a company per se to spend all my time on. So my to-do list is essentially when I go into the clinic, it will be whatever patients are booked in. Obviously outside them times, I've got workouts, I've got a bit of home renovation to do, a few other things. But in general terms, there's not much I can really add to it. But I'm still going to throw down anything that's on my mind. I mean, at the moment, getting rid of a car, that's the priority for us. But a few things that I'm not going to film. So after this, go up, brush my teeth, get into bed, and then try and go to sleep. What they do say is that if you don't get to sleep within 20 minutes, to not fight it, to then obviously go back to potentially like reading or trying to calm your mind as much as possible. That is why you are trying to reduce screen time, dopamine, all these other things earlier on. And the next thing is to be consistent. So to go to bed the same time each night, to try and wake up the same time each morning, have about 7 to 9 hours sleep. All them things will lead to the best possible outcomes. But going forward, I'm not going to film every night. I'll do a check-in probably every 2-3 days, and then at the end of the 7 days, see if it actually worked, give my verdict on it, and see if I can kick the habit of being probably the worst person to wake up of a morning. So the first morning, and as you can probably tell, I don't look the most refreshed, but I did get up at the time I wanted, so it's like 6:45. But ironically, it was probably the worst sleep I've had in a while. I obviously changed the bed and done all the stuff that I was meant to do scientifically, all them things, but I woke up, I must have woke up about 20 times. I don't have any way to track my sleep, so I can't prove that I wasn't in certain stages of sleep. However, I woke up so many times that I just felt exhausted when I woke up not that long ago. I'm being honest, I think the only reason I got up early was because I am filming this video, but if I wasn't, I probably would have stayed in bed for at least another half an hour. Now today's the 5th day, and I didn't think I would have left it this late until I started to sort of update on how this sort of nighttime routine's been going, but it's been a lot more difficult than what I thought. So have I noticed any differences in the way I wake up of a morning? If I'm being honest, I haven't really. And we've obviously just had the clocks go forward for springtime. But one thing I have found is that it is actually quite difficult to stick to a routine, especially when there's things going on that you can't really anticipate for. So with the caffeine, I've actually stuck to the 3 p.m. cutoff, and I thought I might have got some benefit from it, even though like I said earlier on, that I don't really suffer from caffeine, but I haven't really noticed anything there. I've been sticking to the warm showers, which is a bit of a pain because I get a shower normally when I wake up. I get one after a workout and then having a third one, not really to wash myself, but just to sort of have the warm therapy before I go to bed. That's a bit of a pain. But one thing I do know is that, especially with things going on, so after work I'll do a lot of DIY, which yesterday we done a full day of DIY, and time and going to bed is just really difficult. I mean, we ended up doing I think 10 hours, so then that sort of knocked the routine. And I think it just comes down to the fact that I don't really respect my sleep as much as I should have. But this was the whole point of me doing this. How easy is it to stick to certain routines, and how much benefit do you gain from it? Obviously 5 days in, I'm only doing this for 7 days. It is a mere fraction of what a lot of people do in a lifetime. So I can see that there would be a lot of benefits from doing this. There are things that I would probably remove, and I'll do a full debrief at the very end of this video. But I feel like with me, it's not about the warm therapy or the caffeine, even though that could potentially add a bit more quality to my sleep. Again, I'm not measuring it through any Whoop or wearables. But the biggest thing for me is that I keep a lot of my things in my brain. I don't really write stuff down, and that's with diaries, anything. I literally, if it's important enough to me, then I need to know it and I need to remember it. If it's not, then it doesn't really mean that much to me, which obviously sounds a bit funny, but I have actually stuck to writing stuff down, and it does help sometimes. It sort of helps you break down what you've got to do in the next day. Sometimes I can go the other way. So today was one of them days where handing our car back. Tomorrow, there was a million different things we had to do in terms of handing this one over. It's actually been the most complex car handover I've ever had. So doing that amongst normal clinic duties today and all them things, but it does help you break it down. So they're the things that I probably will carry on going forward, is continue to write stuff down. The caffeine cutoff, I will try and keep it on early as I can in the day. Obviously, I understand how it works, but with me, it's not too much of a factor. And like I said, I've got 2 more evenings, and then I'll do a full debrief and see what is it I'm going to carry on, and then look at what I'm going to do going forward in terms of improving my sleep, because it is still an area that needs a lot of attention from me. It is something that I've never perfected and I've never respected enough, but you are spending at least a third of your day sleeping, and you should be investing more things into it, because we do invest more time into a 1 hour gym workout than I do into a 7 to 8 hours sleep. So that's the end of the 7 days, and I'll be honest, I stuck to it probably for the majority of it. I cut off the caffeine 3 till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Like I said, I didn't really notice any difference with that. In terms of the things that made the biggest downfall for me were the television of a night. I mean, because you go to bed obviously with your partner, sometimes they're watching the telly, sometimes you are. So that's the one thing where I could improve drastically. I kept up with the warm therapy, so getting a bath or shower before going to bed. Didn't really do that much for me, because when I get a bath, I tend to get it really hot, so then it takes a while for me to cool down. So if I were to do it, probably would be best get in a bath or a really hot shower quite a bit, maybe 90 minutes before I go to bed as opposed to maybe 45 minutes. But in general, I feel like I have woke up a lot earlier. I was aiming for around 7 o'clock. I probably averaged about 25 past 7-ish, whether that's because of the clocks going forward. Obviously, it's more light of a morning, so it's easier to get up than it is in the winter. The one thing that did help was making a note of all the things that I need to do the next day. Not all the things, and it doesn't have to be very methodical, but sort of removes it from my brain. But that's a big thing that I still need to work on, is just keeping a lot of things in my mind. And when I go to sleep, I start thinking about the issues or things that I've got to do or solve to go to sleep, whereas other people may disregard them completely. Do I feel like having a good nighttime routine is going to be beneficial for your health and sleep? I do. There are things that you just have to have as a sliding scale. So for example, bedtime is something that I am poor with at the moment, and I'm pretty sure people who've got families, which I don't have at the moment in terms of kids, that is going to be very different for them. They may even have an earlier bedtime. And I just feel as though my day is just more geared up for me to do a lot more activities in the evening. And it's not about going out and socialising, because I do very little of that at the moment. With work, because it's not my own business per se, I don't have any aspiration to start work earlier to get certain things done in a day, because I have a strict time with clinics. So it's one of them things, if I had my own business, that would probably motivate me to get up a bit earlier, because I can get the main tasks done and have a bit more freedom with time. So they're things that would probably improve my morning routine, which would then lead and feed into the nighttime routine, which will all improve my health going forward. But it was definitely worth trying out. Obviously 7 days is not enough time to do in comparison to looking at the year or decades, for example, but I do feel as though you can take a few things from this. Like I said, for me, writing stuff down where I would normally take that to bed, that has helped. Screen time, I obviously haven't been the best with that, because a lot of the programs we watch or things we watch on YouTube come out at about 11 o'clock at night. But there are things that you can do. So on your phone, you can make it more warmer tones as opposed to the blue light. So that helps with not burning the retina basically as much and reducing melatonin, all them fancy things that come from poor habits. And the biggest takeaway for anyone and myself from this whole mini experiment is that on paper, there are things that we should be doing. And if you want to optimize your health, well-being, all these things, there are so many things that you can do in a strict manner. However, in reality, things don't pan out like that. And that's in all aspects of life. We have the theory side of things and then what happens in reality. It's not something I've ever been comfortable with in terms of not going for perfection. However, in some things you just have to succumb to it. And in this case, there are things that are imperfect in my routine. There are things that I enjoy. I just need to live with that and try and optimize other areas. So can I improve my exercise, further enhance my diet to then give me the returns that I'm not getting from a nighttime and morning routine? They're all the things I'll look into. But before I finish, I've looked at these from the point of view of trying to improve quality of sleep and getting up early in the morning. Whereas some people do have a difficulty getting to sleep, which has never been something that's affected me. So all these things, again, would apply in that way. And it is the route that I would go down before going for hypnotics in terms of Zopiclone, Zolpidem, Diazepam, Nitrazepam, all these medications that just give you short-term relief, which should only be prescribed for 4 weeks maximum. However, that is not the issue. You see it for years, decades, which a lot of people grow a lot of dependence on it. They also develop tolerance. So this is the route I would do before any of them things, because as with the majority of medication, you should be on the lowest effective dose to give you the best return from therapeutic side of things, but also reducing the amount of adverse effects. As always, this is not medical information. It's just for informational purposes only. And if you've got this far, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.